For thousands of years, science has been unavailable to the masses, just solely because of the lack of equipment, the lack of tools available to conduct a proper scientific research. But even years prior to that, science actually existed in a completely different form. If you look at ancient Egyptians and the pyramids, and how they were constructed, the perfect geometry Egyptian pyramids had, and how they were connected to a grid-like system, and how Nikola Tesla even conducted the Wardenclyffe Tower to extract electricity from the Earth's atmosphere, but he was quickly shut down. All of these mysteries, they exist, but there's another great mystery that also exists, which is the internal science that I believe ancient Egyptians, ancient yogis had true access to. But they've since gone into hiding and it's been inaccessible to the rest of the masses. In today's video, I want to share with you how to access this ancient technology that once you do, it's going to create results in your life that are beyond your wildest dreams. But even more than that, the truth is you already have access to this, but it's just a matter of activating it within you, creating a balance between that logical scientific self and that faithful heart self. Let's get started. Science is only beginning to understand what spirituality and esoteric knowledge has been trying to say for thousands, for millions of years. The issue is when we talk about science as hard science, there's hard science, there's soft science. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, they knew this ancient knowledge, this esoteric knowledge, as a form of science, the internal science. All the yogis, if you study all the ancient works, they knew breathwork, pranayama, they knew yoga as a science to connect with the divine. But now mankind has taken another path where we sort of follow the combustion engine path. And now this has become the hard science of extracting energy, extracting resources for external growth and external gain. Whereas before, they'd already done that. They've evolved and they started to notice that external focus and external gain doesn't really bring you the true growth that you are actually looking for, which only is led to by the most direct path, which is internal growth. And so when you do spiritual practices like meditation, like yoga, like breath work, it leads you to tapping into, to utilizing that inner science. So for spiritual people, tapping into science allows them to use more of a reasoning part of their brain. And for non-spiritual people, more scientific people, it allows them to get out of their heads and more into their hearts, into their bodies, and utilize a power that controls 95% of their whole being, the subconscious and the unconscious. Because when you are more scientific, you're more logical and rational, you're just tapping into 5% of your whole being, which I think is a very, very limited way to live. Scientific people who are very, very stuck in their logic and their reason, how they can begin to use faith and more of the 95% that controls their whole being is very, very simply living more in the present moment and learning to accept what is. And what I mean by that is we have to look at the definitions of belief and faith. Belief is trust in the known and the seen, which is what science largely relies on. For example, you have noticed phenomena happening in nature and you start to observe events happening, then you create a hypothesis around your observation, then you confirm the hypothesis. It's testable, it's not disprovable, then the hypothesis stands. It's reactive, it's dependent. Whereas faith is more so uncovering something unknown. So faith is trust in the unknown and the unseen. For example, when Roger Bannister broke the record for the first 4-minute mile, he didn't know that it was possible. Not a single man or woman has ever broken the 4-minute mile before. He operated on faith to break it. When he broke it for the very first time, high schoolers started to break 4-minute miles. It just became a new thing that breaking the 4-minute mile is doable. So faith is what allows you to tap into a field that was once unexplored. It's completely new. It's the greatest source of art, of creativity imaginable. It's the thing that makes new inventions possible. Belief is more just repeating the old and making the old doable. Both are needed. But if you're someone who's more of a logical person who wants to get more and more into faith, you need to stop living in your head and start living in your body. And the only way to do that is through acceptance of every single moment, almost as though you're giving that moment a hug with your heart. So something terrible might be happening in your life and immediately your logical mind goes, this was so bad. This is not in line with what I wanted in my life. This is going to spoil everything. Well, instead of viewing it as that, what if you gave that moment a heart hug? You fully accepted it and you just trusted that, hey, I don't know what's going to come from this. Something wonderful, something miraculous could come from this. Maybe you got, a divorce from someone you were in a toxic relationship with. And in the moment you're like, oh no, my whole life is ruined. I just got this divorce and I've been trying so hard to make this marriage work. What if that was meant to happen so you could find the next relationship, the perfect relationship that you were supposed to find? So when you go along this journey and you're trying to cultivate more faith, and you're trying to have more faith and trust in the unknown and the unseen, one of the biggest enemies you'll encounter is doubt. Because immediately the reasoning mind gets in the way, the ego gets in the way and says, ha, see, you're not good enough. You couldn't do this. And that's manifestation of a negative sort of faith. And that only happens when you're so attached to the mind and its logical constructs, because you have to understand what the nature of the mind is. The mind is very, very influenceable by everything around us, by society, by societal conditioning, by all the programming that you have from things you watch, books you read, people you hear. It's very, very easily influenced, and it's very, very fearful. By its very nature, the mind is made to help you survive, okay? But if you want to thrive and live a life that's beyond your wildest dreams, you have to tap into the power of the heart. And the only way to do that is, in those moments of doubt, disidentify from doubt. It is not you. It's simply a thought that is arising within consciousness. So when you begin to see the doubt as a doubt, not my doubt and me, it is much easier to step into faith. Because when you take a step back and look at something, then you have the power of choice to choose what you would like to experience in the next moment. But if you are living as doubt and as fear, then that's all you know. Protection, living small, is all you know. Logic and ration is all you know. The very first time I learned of this concept of faith, and it wasn't actually through formal definition, like defining it as faith per se, but I remember I was trying to become more confident because as a kid I was bullied, and throughout that time I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't trust in my own abilities, and I didn't trust that life was actually taking care of me. And the very first time I started to believe in myself, which was something very unknown to me at the time, when I started to have faith in myself and my own capabilities, and I strengthened it, was actually through going to the gym, working out. And I remembered watching this video on personal development, about how if you go to the gym, you work out, not only do you build bigger muscles, which makes you feel better about yourself, but there is the unseen component to it, which is you build discipline. You say you're going to do something, then you show up and you do it. You feel proud of yourself. When you start to feel proud of yourself and you reward yourself more and more, you cultivate more and more self-acceptance. Acceptance in your own being, in the way that you are. And people think, okay, I need to change myself, but it's never really from an attitude of trying to change myself. It's more of an attitude of, let me push my current self to see what's actually possible. So when I went ahead and started going to the gym, when I started to develop discipline, and even on the days that my lower self didn't want to go to the gym, I actually went ahead and did it anyways. I started to notice that I started to respect myself more. I started to trust in my abilities more. I was able to take more risk in life, like when I started a business, and it was easier for me to do that than just trust all those, go forth and fall into all of those doubts and fears. There was this part of me that already became strong enough to saying, hey, Quazi, you went to the gym, you did this, you accomplished this, you got good grades in school, got into the relationship that you wanted to get into, and you persisted through all the hardship. Persisting hardship is what allows you to build more faith, more resilience, because the definition of hardship is, this isn't something that you are used to. It's difficult. It's hard. The more things you do that are hard and you persist through them, the higher your level of faith gets, the more you start to trust in your own abilities. And I believe to become an entrepreneur, it's the greatest test of how well you do in unknown and uncertain territories. One of our clients, Ubaid, who joined us when he was around 15 or 16 years old from a war zone, he joined us. He was working on starting up his online business. And every single day he would get abused, verbally, emotionally, by friends, by his dad. And he was going through a really tough time, internet would get shut down for him. And so he wanted to come out of that situation, and he started working with us. We helped him shift his identity into becoming who he was meant to be, who he truly wanted to be, but he couldn't, because he couldn't tap into faith. He was stuck into the reasoning mind. And he thought to grow my online business, I need to do X, Y, and Z. But the whole time he was ignoring who he was within. and all of the doubts and fears and uncertainties that he was holding onto. Because if you act from a place of doubt, fear, uncertainty, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to propagate that. What you feel who you are is what you're going to propagate through what you do. And it will lead to having the kind of results that are in line with who you are. Once we helped him change who he was, he got out of his own way and he started to notice, because the glass is always half full. He was noticing the glass as half empty. We showed him how to change his perspective to start noticing the glass as half full, look for more confirmations in his immediate environment of how he is, who he has intended to be. And that started to snowball into something massive. And then I believe he started to make multi 5 figures a month. This 15-year-old kid started to make multi 5 figures a month, and I have an interview with him on the channel too. I can't remember the specifics of his situation right now, but he started making multi 5 figures a month. He moved out of that war-torn country to Dubai, to like this high rise, and he started living his best life, all as a result of that internal change. If you'd like to get results like Ubaid and all of the other clients that you've seen on the channel, and you want to work closer together with me to attain a permanent identity shift, then all you need to do is go to realitycreator.com/apply. Go and fill up an application, and once you do, you'll be prompted to schedule a call. Just transparently speaking, not everyone will qualify for this call because we're looking for a certain kind of clientele who we can truly get results like we got Ubaid. So if you feel like you might be the right fit, and this is something you really, really want to do, you really want to make a transformation in your life, just go ahead and go to realitycreator.com/apply, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there.